Sometimes, in my mind, I have to put stop signs, so to speak, where, all right, I do not want to say this. This is a word I don't want to say anymore, so I have to figure out ways to have my brain halt right before I want to say something. And my hope is that this will happen with the word unfair. That even when the feeling comes up, there will be a trigger inside of us that says, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go to this word. I'm not going to go to this feeling, because this is not, even though it might seem legitimate, this is not necessarily the truth of my situation. This is not necessarily, I'm not going to legitimize this feeling just because it looks like this at this present time. Now, I asked you in the beginning, about obvious things, and there's a funny commercial with Captain Obvious. I love those commercials. I think they're hilarious. But nonetheless, maybe you have a Captain Obvious around you, or I think all of us really have a Captain Obvious inside of us. Now, when I was 17 years old, I got to go to South Africa for 2 months, and that was an awesome mission trip. It was a youth mission trip, but I absolutely loved that trip. That was my very first real international mission trip. And on that trip, I've discovered a few things that this organization did, and they did it really well. And these guys have been going out for years, for decades. And one thing they did is that they told all the teenagers and everybody, even all the leaders, they said, one thing we're not going to do is that we're not going to state the obvious. Let me say that again. We're not going to state the obvious, all right? The whole reason there's a commercial with Captain Obvious is because there's so many of us that like to say that. For example, right now we're coming into summertime. Do you have to say it's hot outside? Do you have to say, oh man, I'm sweating cats and dogs, or whatever, or if it's pouring cats and dogs, or oh my gosh, it's so cold and winter. Do you understand? These things really serve no good whatsoever. They don't help anyone or any of the hearers. Now you might think, oh, I'm trying to fill in the gaps and just start, an icebreaker. Well, I want to encourage you to think of some other icebreakers, all right? You've probably used those icebreakers enough, and it's time to develop some new ones there. But again, we're oftentimes stating obvious things, or, how about, this is a tricky one. How about when someone comes in your midst and they smell really, really bad, okay? Really, really bad, and it's obvious, all right? Do you have to state it? Well, sometimes if you're most likely a nice person, you don't want to say anything, and if you're one of those just say whatever comes to your mind, you're making faces, you're doing everything, you're running away, and then afterwards, when that smell is gone, what is it that we say afterwards? Are we saying the obvious things, or are we figuring out other ways to be able to bless and to love others? All right, so here's the thing. There are things that are obvious to so many of us all the time, right? Now, if there are things that are obvious that you can fix, then I want to encourage you, that's something to talk about. There is a solution to the obvious situations. Then it's okay to state it and then move to the solution to those situations.